Hey everybody, it's Moonbo here, and welcome back to some more Endless Scrap Mechanic. In today's video, we're going to be having some shipping and receiving fun, and that's because I have created a really awesome modular warehouse build where you can create your own custom storage warehouses where you can use the forklift, unload trucks. It's loads of fun. So I'm going to start by showing you how to use the modular pieces to build your own warehouse in a matter of minutes, and then we're going to move into using the forklift. I've got a receiving bay with a truck that's full of pallets ready to be unloaded. Lots of awesome stuff to check out, so let's get into it. Alright, so we're in a completely open, flat world right now. There's nothing built whatsoever, and this is how you can build your own custom warehouse using these modular pieces. So the first thing we're going to start with is the warehouse receiving bay. I highly suggest that if you are going to be building any of these warehouses that you start with this piece. I would have to say that this is the most crucial component of the warehouse. So what I'm going to do for this receiving bay is we are going to weld it to the ground just one block up off of the ground. That's all we're going to need, and then the rest of the pieces are going to get added on to this section right here. Now once you've got the receiving bay in place, what I like to do next is I have a full section right here, and you can see I'm sorting by just the word warehouse. It's giving me all of the different warehouse components that I've made. So we're gonna go into the warehouse full section. So what this is it's just a full loop here of all of the pieces that you need to continue this warehouse. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna grab that bottom corner right here on the concrete, and I'm going to weld it to where that corner would be right there, just like so. And as you can see, now we have a bigger section here that adds on to the receiving bay. Now, the biggest section for this modular stuff is the inside corner large. Now, this is a huge piece that I ended up making for giant corners inside of the warehouse. Now, the easiest thing to do is to grab it in the shape that you want the L coming off of the original wall here. So I'm going to grab that one there, and we're going to imagine it's going to rotate it 180 degrees. And you can see here we can line it right up to the concrete again and weld it in place just like so. And now we have ourselves a really awesome looking corner here. So now we have a couple different areas that we can build off of. We could keep going off of the right there on that corner, or we can kind of build into this section here. But I think what we're going to do is just start with this right side here. And this is where it gets pretty interesting. So now we can grab another one of these full sections here, and we're going to grab it from that corner concrete and weld it in place just like so. And so now you can see we're starting to build outward in a brand new direction. And this is the really cool stuff. So now we could, in theory, if we want to, we could add another receiving bay. So this receiving bay will fit perfectly on that, obviously. So we could put a receiving bay. There is also the warehouse section end. Now this is just a big chunk of the warehouse, and as you can see, it's just a dead end. So if we want, we can grab this one right here, and we can weld it to the back side of this section here, just like so. And now we have capped off this wing of the warehouse. So now that we have this section ended right here, this is pretty much like a finished area of this warehouse. Now we do have a bit of a weird section here, but don't worry, there is another modular piece for this here. Now this is just the warehouse section 1. So this is not the full section. This is technically like half of a section. Now what we can do here though is just again grab it from the concrete. Now if you're using this stuff in your own game, I highly recommend that you only weld all of your components right here on this little end piece here, these 6 blocks. And that's just because you'll see there are a few issues that you might run into as you build corners and stuff like that. Everything is not 100% perfect. So now we're going to weld this section here, and I do believe, there we go, that is the final section right here for that portion of the warehouse. So now we have this other side. So what we could do, if we wanted to, is we could grab another corner piece just like on that side, and we can weld it over on this side. Now, for the sake of this video, I am not going to go into a super detailed, like, finished version of this. The main thing I want to accomplish in this video, of course, is showing you how to use these modular parts. So now we're going to put in a corner right there, and this is what I wanted to highlight in terms of building from only those blocks there. So as you can see, there is a gap right here, and that's because of some of the width of the different parts. They don't line up 100%, but this is a very minor issue. It's something that you can very easily fix by going through your build and just putting in a single line of concrete just like so. Now you might have noticed there are some like beams at the top here, and that's because we were working with half sections only. Now there are some solutions to that. Now I do have like a beam here. Where is it? Right here. I have a roof beam just like so. Now sometimes what I'll do is I can just easily grab my lift and weld tool just like this, and then lift myself up to the ceiling just like so, and you can see that that will reach all the way across. Now that's not always the best practice. You could get up there and just remove them if you wanted to, but I did create another thing that kind of solves that as well, and that is a support beam. So I figured sometimes the warehouse might look really empty on the inside, so I figured I would add another thing to the world, and this just really helps fill in the empty space, but it also just kind of makes sense in terms of like what it would be like to create something like this, you know, and actually have support beams. So there you go. Now you can kind of weld things in the center as well. And these are also really good because when you are spawning in all of your warehouse racks like this, it's a lot of fun to be able to utilize those beams as kind of like control points, so you can, you know, space things out accordingly or create different areas. So I'm going to quickly fill in this little section that we created here, and then we're going to move on to the receiving bay, the forklift, as well as the shipping truck. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the most crucial part of a warehouse. It is the forklift. So I have created this forklift for this warehouse world. It's completely vanilla, so any world can load it in, no problems whatsoever. Now this is a lot of fun to drive around. Now you can see we've got rear wheel steering there, of course, because it is a forklift. And one thing I did was I put the turning bearing directly over the center of the wheel. Now what that allowed for was just perfect pivoting turning on the back wheels there. So you can see we can do some extremely tight turns. And so this forklift is extremely simple to use. It's very specifically designed for this warehouse. So if you have your own pallets or your own rack systems, then it might not be completely compatible. So the first switch we can do is number 1 there, and that lowers the forks all the way to the ground. So as you can see, they're all the way to the ground now, and that is obviously so we can go underneath a pallet and then pick it back up again. And then we have the 2 and 3 switches. Now those are for these respective racks right here. So if I press 2, then that's going to lift this piston set up to the first level of the rack. And then if I press 3, it's going to pick it up all the way up to the top level rack. Now if we bring these back down again, I can show you number 4. That is going to lean the forks back so that you can secure the load nice and well there. And then 5, of course, is just for some lights because sometimes it can get really dark in a warehouse. So let's try and grab a pallet there. We've got ourselves a pallet of tomatoes. So we're going to bring the forklift up all the way to the pallet. There we go. We're going to drop the forks down onto the ground. Get right up underneath it. And this is just super easy. Look at that. We're picking up the pallet now. And so now we've got ourselves a giant crate of tomatoes. So I guess, you know what, we might as well find a spot to put them. So these tomatoes, why don't we just put them all the way up to the ceiling? We're going to stack them up real high. There we go. We're going to press 2 and 3 to bring them all the way up. Now, the reason why this is a gas engine and not an electric motor is because the electric motor has way too much torque. And so using the gas engine, it's just so nice to be able to tap it nice and slowly, just to get some nice minor movements. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring the pallet back to level there. We had it leaned back nice and secured. And now once you get to the rack where you want to place it, you leave the extensions on and then you just press 1 because that is the button that lowers the pallet back down to the floor. So then there you go. We can drop those tomatoes off right there on that top rack. And we can go grab another one. Now I'm going to turn on follow cam so we can get a really awesome first person view, and I love this forklift in the first person. It's so much fun. You can see, look at that. We've got the forks right there in front of us. Press up against the pallet and then just press 4 and 1 at the same time, and it's going to pick up the pallet. It's going to lean it back as well for that extra bit of security. Well, I might as well just put it back down on the same rack that we put those tomatoes there. So why don't we just line this up? Now we're going to stay in first person this whole time. And it should be easy enough, because look at that. Once you lift that pallet up, you can see the bottom of it right there. So it's still visible. And then we can very easily just kind of drive this right in. Here we go. And then we're gonna just lean the pallet forward. Nice and easy. Now, I don't know. I think we might need to go in a little bit closer here. There we go. Drop the pallet down. Back it up. And look at that. That's how easy this is. So these pallets just kind of magically appeared right here in this warehouse. Now, that normally wouldn't happen in a warehouse. We gotta bring them in somehow, and of course that is with the shipping truck right here. Now, this thing is loaded up full of bananas, I'm pretty sure. But this is also a completely vanilla build. I had lots of fun with all of the new survival parts, trying to create a little bit of extra detail in this work as well. Now, one thing with this truck that I do want to point out before we bring it over to the warehouse is that double suspension kind of bogie system in the back here. Now, it's just absolutely amazing. I'm going to show you what I mean by simply creating a little section right here, just like so. Now, we're gonna drive over this. Now, right now, this is a pretty heavy vehicle. If we look inside of the trailer, you can see we have a stockpile of bananas as well. But I want you to just take a look at those back wheels right there as I drive over this. Just look at that. You can see that there is, like, hardly any movement happening on the truck itself. And those wheels are just kind of navigating the terrain underneath there. No problem whatsoever. And so this is just such a great design for like a truck like this where you have the extra sets of wheels in the back, and it just creates such an effortless drive. All right, so here we go. We're gonna bring the truck to this warehouse. Clearly the warehouse is still under construction, but you know what? They're eager for their produce. This is a scrap mechanic after all, you know, it's all about the farming, so we need to get this shipment in. Alright, so we're lined up. Now we're gonna open up our doors. There we go. And these are double hinged doors, as you can see, and that's so that they can open up all the way around, which is just like how normal trucks would actually do it as well. They would get latched to the side there. So now we're pretty much ready to back up into the receiving bay, and just like a receiving bay, there are some cushioned exterior kind of paddings on either side of the door, and there's more than just the padding that is used in that sense there. So here we go. We're gonna back up the truck in, and I'll show you what I mean by the padding having more than just the single use of the padding there. So we're gonna line this up though. It can be a little tricky at times, but we just need to kind of get right into the middle, just like so. And so as you can see, we bounced up against that suspension there on the padding, and that bounced us forward just a little bit again. Now, it's always good practice to chalk your wheels, so be sure to place some block set down or something just like that, just because we are going to be running the forklift on the back of that truck there, so we don't want it sliding away. But here we go. We're going to open up our receiving bay door number 1. There it goes. We've got our truck all lined up. Let's take a look at the parking job here. Not too bad, not too bad. It looks like our ramp is going to have enough space. So now the next step, though, is, of course, bringing up the ramp and dropping it down. And this is just like an actual warehouse. I have done quite a bit of work in this industry, and so it was a lot of fun for me to bring this to life. So here we go, though. We now have our ramp dropping down just like so. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not, but those are the new warehouse wedge pieces, and as you can see, I have them flipped upside down, and that's because I wanted to be able to, like, really keep this as flush as possible. I had a couple different variations, but I finally found this solution here, and it's just absolutely amazing how smooth it is. And that was a big fix for me because that allowed for me to make this forklift with gas engines instead of the electric motor, because the electric motor was giving me the power I needed to go up and over this center bump. but it was just a little too much torque like I mentioned. So here we go though. We are gonna bring off a couple pallets from this truck here, and this is my favorite part. This feels like offloading a truck with a forklift. I can't even begin to describe how much this is hitting that point for me. So here we go. We're on the ramp now, and so we're just gonna bring our forklift onto the truck here, lower our forks, and then we're just gonna bring it in right to the bananas there, pick up our pallet. So here we go, just back it up over the ramp just like so, and there we go. We have ourselves our first pallet. Now, one thing in the receiving industry is you want the truck gone as soon as possible. You want that truck in and out. You want them on their way, and you want to be on your way as well. So typically what you would do is probably have like a staging area where you would take all of these pallets off. And so we're not necessarily going to be taking all these pallets off and then bringing them over to the racks or over to anywhere that you could stack them. And like I said, that's just because our first priority in this is to try and get this truck gone as fast as possible. So we're just going to bring it in, grab another pallet, get out of the truck, and look at that. And this, like I said, this is the fun part. This is where I am enjoying this build the most, is going into those trucks there and offloading the pallets. Now, this is a shipping and receiving warehouse, which means, hey, maybe sometimes you might have to ship some things. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab some of these pineapples right here, and we're going to put them on the truck because, you know, we're going to pretend like someone needs them somewhere. All right, let's do this one in first person again, because like I mentioned, this is pretty realistic for if you ever want to kind of experience working in an area like this. This is really awesome. Okay, here we go. We're bringing the pallet onto the truck now. So can't really see, but you know, it's really important as a forklift driver to just know your vehicle, know your pallet, know the load, and make sure that you know what you're doing. So here we go. We're going to take it onto this left side right here, just like so. We're going to bump it up into that pallet behind it, lower it down, and then just nice and easy, we're going to back out. And there we go. We put the pallet onto the truck. So as a fun little side thing, I created a personnel cage. So this is kind of like a lift that you would put people in and pick it up like a pallet. And that, of course, is to just do work that's really high up. And maybe you don't have a scissor lift or anything like that, so you can use this instead. All right, so that is going to be the video for today. I sure hope you guys did enjoy this build, and I hope you have a bunch of fun with it as well from the Steam Workshop. So if you guys did enjoy the video, then let me know by hitting that like button. And if you want to tune in for some more Endless Scrap Mechanic, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, maybe even turn on some notifications so you get the latest and the craziest coming from me in Scrap Mechanic. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will be seeing you in the next one. So bye for now.